Meredith graciously accepted, wiping away tears as she talked about turning pain into purpose. I felt sick watching the performance. The charity run planning consumed the next 2 weeks. Meredith scheduled daily committee meetings during my breaks, forcing me to eat while taking notes about sponsorship levels and route planning. She appointed herself as the keynote speaker for the opening ceremony and started practicing her speech during shift changes, her voice cracking with emotion as she described watching her son battle through chemotherapy that never happened. I started carrying a small notebook everywhere, documenting each instance of harassment. When Meredith texted me 17 times during Kaylee's blood draw appointment, I saved every message. When she rearranged the supply closets and blamed me for the mess in front of the department head, I photographed the security footage timestamp showing her entering the closet an hour before my shift. The evidence pile grew thicker each day. Victoria introduced me to Sebastian, another former employee who'd worked under Meredith 3 years earlier. We met at a coffee shop near the hospital where Sebastian now worked as a medical equipment sales representative. He'd left nursing entirely after Meredith claimed to have the same rare blood disorder his daughter was fighting. She'd used it to get first choice on all scheduling, leaving Sebastian with the worst shifts during his daughter's treatment. When he'd complained, she'd written him up for insubordination and made his work life unbearable until he quit. Sebastian still had copies of the performance reviews Meredith had written during that time. Each one painted him as an incompetent nurse who used family issues as excuses for poor performance. Meanwhile, she'd been receiving accolades for working through her own fictional health crisis. He'd kept everything but never pursued action because he needed the job reference to support his family. Back at work, Meredith's campaign intensified. She started scheduling mandatory training sessions that always conflicted with Kaylee's appointments. When I requested accommodations, she'd sigh dramatically and remind everyone how she'd never asked for special treatment during her son's cancer battle. My coworkers would nod sympathetically while I bit my tongue to keep from screaming the truth. The night shifts were unaliving me. I'd work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., then rush home to get Kaylee ready for school. After dropping her off, I'd try to sleep for a few hours before picking her up and helping with homework. Most days I operated on 3 hours of sleep, mainlining coffee and energy drinks just to stay upright. Kaylee started making her own dinners because I'd fall asleep at the kitchen table. One particularly brutal week, Meredith scheduled me for 5 consecutive night shifts. By the 4th night, I was hallucinating from exhaustion. I made a minor medication error, catching it immediately before any harm was done, but Meredith was watching. She documented the incident in triplicate and called an emergency meeting to discuss my dangerous negligence. She suggested I might need remedial training, implying my personal situation was affecting my work performance. During that meeting, surrounded by administrators who looked at me with disappointment, Meredith dabbed at her eyes and mentioned how she'd never let her son's illness affect her patient care. She suggested perhaps I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. The department head nodded thoughtfully and assigned me to work with a supervising nurse for the next month, essentially demoting me despite my 12 years of exemplary service. The supervising nurse turned out to be Meredith's close friend who reported every minor detail back to her. If I took an extra minute in the bathroom, Meredith knew. If I checked my phone for messages from Kaylee's school, Meredith knew. The surveillance was suffocating. I felt like a prisoner in my own workplace. I started reaching out to more former employees through LinkedIn. The pattern was always the same. Meredith would identify someone going through a personal crisis, claim to have the same issue, use it for personal gain, then systematically destroy anyone who questioned her. One woman had lost her husband in a car accident, only to have Meredith